All right. Good morning. Sorry, good afternoon, everyone. All welcome to the first episode of Think Africa. So, um, my name is Enoch Bayode, and I'll be your host for today. So before we begin in full, before I bring on board our guests, so that we could start um the podcast. So I'm going to be giving us a brief introduction of the host of this event, which is Cratadel. So I'm going to be giving us just a brief um, information about Cratadel community. Then, um, okay. And then I'll be telling us what Think Africa entails just in the next 5 minutes. So I'll be putting all this to our ears. All right. So Cratadel. So um, the word Cratadel stem from two words, which is creativity and citadel. So and the Cratadel community was born, let me just say, a year ago, just about this time, April. So and Cratadel is a tech and entrepreneurship community empowering Africa to create innovative solution tailored to the African unique challenges. So we aim to, raise young minds, techies, entrepreneurs, to look inward into Africa and put heads together and solve the challenges we face locally, with the use of technologies, and any so majorly with the use of technology and bringing our ideas together just to make something great, something that address our local problem. So and since last year we've hosted several events and all, and we've also been able to train some number of people in the area of tech. We have designers, graphic designers, UI UX designers, and machine learning engineers that we've trained, and many more like that. So our core mission is to raise individual, especially youth across Africa, with a passion and drive for innovation to build to build tech-enabled startup and products in each African states. Then our vision is to transform Africa into a global hub of innovative technology and entrepreneurship, shifting Africa from just being a consumer to a producer on a global stage. So, all right. So let me give us um, a brief history of how Think Africa come into being. So Think Africa is a movement by Cratadel. Yeah. So it's a movement by Cratadel. So it's a program that is designed to inspire and drive innovation while addressing Africa unique challenges. All right. So Cratadel is the community. Then Think Africa is a movement that we're trying to run across Africa. So what do we do? Or what do we aim to do with this movement? Showcase and celebrate local innovations. So when we see maybe a young man doing something that has to do with Africa that connects to the African problem. So we celebrate such person and we encourage in any way we can help. So then we also have Think Africa Podcast, which is the program we're having today. So on this podcast, we aim to host insightful conversation where innovators, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders explore creative and technological solutions to Africa pressing challenges. So you may be thinking, so why do we need to even host this kind of event? I mean, this podcast. Now, there's something I learned a few years ago from my friend, one of my very close friends, very good friend to me that has really contributed to my growth. He said there are three things that change our life. He said the places we go, um, the people we meet, and the books we read. Now, on this podcast, we aim to bring innovators and entrepreneurs, thought leaders that could share from their knowledge or that could share from their wealth of experience how they have been able to do something, create a product in Africa. So we want to listen to them because I believe by the time you listen to these thought leaders, your thoughts and your mindset is going to really shift because now you can see the way they are seeing because they have been in the system, they have learned one or two things, they have, interact with the African markets, and as a upcoming maybe entrepreneur, maybe you are just starting out or you have an idea that you want to turn into a product. These are people you need to really listen to because you'll be able to hear from them directly, how they were able to face some problems that come their way, why they were trying to maybe scale their own product. So it is with great joy in my heart that I have two amazing speakers with me today that we are going to be interacting with. All right. Please, if you can hear me, can you just give me a thumbs up or just give an emoji? Great, great, great. So that's great. That's great. All right. So with me today, or with us today on this call, we have Mr. Oyewale Joshua. So who will be speaking on creativity, the African uniqueness. So there is a uniqueness that the African or that an average African has. We tend to improvise in any situation we find ourselves. It may be something that doesn't really make sense, something that you can't even really think about. We just find a way to always get things done, even in the face of problem. So there is something about the African people. Yes, creativity is one of our uniqueness. It's really one of our uniqueness. Then today I also have with me on this call Mr. Adebayo Moses. He will be speaking on Africa, the next Silicon Valley. So we may be thinking that okay, we only have one guest on the flyer, but then let me tell you a bit about Mr. Adebayo Moses. So Mr. Adebayo Moses has been a good friend of mine, and he's really one of the people that has fueled my passion for growth. Yes, I can boldly say this. So yeah, he has really been a source of inspiration to me, and I've learned a lot from his lifestyle. So one of the way you learn from people is not just by them talking to you all the time. You learn from the way they live, the way they do things, and all. So I can boldly say he's a man of excellence and all. Yeah, and he's a very straight man. So anything he wants to achieve, he sets his mind on it and he achieves it. So and he's the CEO of Travella. Yeah, the CEO and co-founder of Travella. So we'll be hearing from him today, and uh, he has spoken in so many great events. I mean, tech events, entrepreneurship events. He has been a keynote speaker for so many events. So we'll be happy to hear from his wealth of knowledge too. All right. So without wasting much time, so we'll be moving to the podcast now, where I ask questions from our guest, and they also give us response. And okay, okay. So so let's get to this. So Mr. Oyewale Joshua, I believe you can hear me. You can unmute your mic now and just say hello to our wonderful audience.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joshua Oyewale. Just as our host has said, my name is Joshua Oyewale, and I am an artist. Very passionate about using arts for healing, innovation, impacting, educating, and also to provoke proactive change and also to end poverty. So that's part of my core um, activities that I use my heart to do. So this afternoon, I'm so happy to be in this meeting with us just to share some of the things uh, that's has been going on trending in Africa in terms of creativity and art, and how we can move forward with it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. So okay. So from here I move to Mr. Moses. Please, can you just say hello to everyone too? Or proceed.
Hi guys, how's it going? So good afternoon. My name is Moses, and then I run a technology company in Cratadel. It's my pleasure to be here, and I look forward to the beautiful stuff we'll discuss. Thank you.
All right, all right. Thank you so much, Mr. Moses. So let's have this. All right. So I'll be starting with you, sir, Mr. Oyewale Joshua. So
Okay.
I get to meet you I think last year, and I was fascinated by your painting because they communicate a whole lot, visuals and graphics. One of the way to really communicate to a larger audience is to have a pictorial diagram, because um art is what people of different tribe, uh different culture can really understand. Because if I have a picture of somebody that is eating and I show it to a Chinese, the person can decipher that this person is eating without me saying anything. So, and I look at the way you paint the passion, during worship in church and all. It's really mind blowing. So, the first question I have for you today is, when you think about Africans' creativity, what comes to your mind first and why? Like, when you look at Africa as a whole, when you think about our creativity, maybe in terms of art, because I know you belong to a large, maybe a community of artists like yourself that are also doing great things. And in one way or the other, you have seen, different art across the world. So what do you think about African creativity? When you think about African creativity, what comes to your mind first and why?
Right. Okay. All right. African creativity. What comes to my mind first is number one. Actually, I'm going to make two clarity about African creativity, the word creativity at large, and what comes to my mind when it comes to African creativity at large. Creativity, the word creativity is African creativity being resourceful, the resourcefulness of African, in which are talking about um, creativity beyond those art, painting, music, and the rest. But in terms of our means of survival, innovation, and expression, that is one. So, one, African creativity, we are so much like resourceful. We are so much resourceful in terms of we are capable of turning rubbish into rubies. And that's one of the things that I've seen about African creativity. We are not limited. We have the power to break boundaries with limited resources. So with limited resources, we've been as African, we've been able to to create a lot when it comes to creativity, both in terms of arts as itself, in terms of creation, in terms of words, in terms of um, survivor, means of survivor. So, and that has really contributed to our ways of living in terms of our culture and our heritage. That's I don't know whether that was able to answer your question. Being resourceful, African creativity is so resourceful in terms of our survival, innovation, and expression.
Yeah, that's true. Being resourceful. So it means in Africa, when we look at most of the innovation we have, most of the product we have here, you know, we kind of see that there is high level of improvising, making use of what we have,
Yeah.
yeah, in our locality. So I think that is very, very practical. That's very, very practical. So the second question I have for you, sir, is do you think our culture and tradition influence the way we solve problem creatively in Africa? And
Yeah.
then we can also share examples too. You can feel free to share examples about this.
Okay. Right now, I will also continue from the first question, then link it down to the second question. So when it comes to Africa, African creativity, and African solving problems, I think when I met with you, I think I mentioned this, and with my the body of knowledge I've been able to gather and my experience as an artist, both uh, academically and studio practice, I have found out that African art or African creativity, we Africans, we as philosophers, we don't create things just for creating sake. And that has been one of my intention as an artist, as a person. That's one of the things that propel me in doing what I'm doing presently now. Now, African creativity, we don't do things just because we want to do things. From the onset, we do things. I see African creativity as Africans as philosophers. I don't know whether you're getting me right. We are philosophers. We do things with purpose. We create things with purpose to solve a problem, to solve an issue, and not just to solve a problem, but to also, in the midst of the problem, we document things. Now, I'll give you an example, which I think in our contemporary time, apparently, many of our creativity is lacking, which I think one of the things we need to develop into returning back to the past, learning something about what we have in the past and bringing it down to the future so that we can do something better and something innovative in this present time. Now, let me give you an instance in solving problems. An indigenous African artist, talking in the aspect of wood carving, a indigenous African wood carver, we carve a sculptural piece, 3/4 of the image, emphasizing on the head and making the body more smaller. Now, in that sense, what the carver or the African, if you have actually gone through different art museums, both in Africa and the Western part, if you storm any of the African carved image or sculptural piece, you see that there is a much emphasis on the head than the body, the indigenous sculptural piece. What they are talking about is that they are placing emphasis on the identity. They are placing emphasis on the identity, communicating the idea that when the state of the head is right, the body will be upright. Now, in our contemporary time, present now, when you see a sculptural piece like that, you think, this is diabolic. And this is one of the knowledge I think we need to go back to and learn, absorb some of this knowledge and bring it back to what we are doing presently in this our contemporary creation. Now, a sculptural, now looking at the head contains many of the things that define the identity of everybody. In the head, we have the eyes, we have the nose, we have the mouth, we have the hair. And now, if the head of a man is cut off, the identity is lost, and that in fact that person can't even live again. So, an indigenous art carver will emphasize on the head. That is one, talking about the identity. And bringing it down to me, my own tradition. I'm from Oyo State. I'm a Yoruba man. Yoruba will talk about the head, the spiritual head, the spiritual head. Talking about the spiritual head. Now I'm talking African. Now I'm talking about indigenous. Talking about culture. Now the Yoruba will say the head is the seat of all things. Talking about both the spiritual, both the physical. When your head, I don't want to say it in Yoruba. Uh,
Okay.
okay, I don't want to say, but maybe I
I
just
think you
say.
can say it.
Let me
Yeah.
just quote one proverb in Yoruba. He said, "Ori." Let me make it simple so that we can understand. It says, "Ori leja fin labuja." Do you understand? That is in the ocean. It is the head of a fish that they used to storm the waves in the sea. So when the head of the fish or a shark is off, is nothing. So it storms and navigates towards life inside the sea by the head. Do you understand? That's what we are talking about. So when you are talking about African art, African creations, we do things philosophically. We do things with purpose to solve problems. And many of these problems are not just done, but to also done, they are done codedly to document knowledge. Do you understand? And that's one of the things that we do things just to solve problems. That's what I'm talking about. That what we do as an African creatives, we do our things purposefully and we do them to solve problems. No African art was done just for African for art's sake. They are done with a purpose. Let me go to another aspect of art in terms of textile. And this is so practical because I've been into it. It's one of those things, one of my own aspect of innovations. I'm so much interested in returning back to our past histories, which defines our identity. Histories, which defines our identity. I think when we get our identity right in terms of our history, our past, we will be able to do something properly in this time and our age now. Now, there's a gallery I am working in partner with where I do arts academy, and there's a time I gather many of these young folks, and there's a body of knowledge I've known in terms of textile adire. Now, if you look at African adire textile work, you see then they are full of designs, they are full of different symbols. I want you to know that those symbols, they are not just design, they are not just pattern, they are not just motif, they have their own meaning and interpretations. But I got to understand that many of us that we don't actually know the meaning of those interpretations. All what we are all about is that this thing is so beautiful. That is the aesthetics. We are so much interested about the aesthetics rather than also the interpretation. And it is this interpretation that defines our identity, not just the aesthetics. Now, I gather these folks, then I begin to teach them the meaning and the interpretation of different symbols that makes a batik or a adire designs. So we are trying to make a creative words. So different symbols have their own interpretation. I can just bring some of those images, but maybe in another season we'll have a proper plan for that. When all these children will bring these images together and their interpretations creatively, we use those words to form different sentences. In these symbols, we have symbols that talks about wealth. Have symbols that talks about abundance. We have symbols that talks about restoration. You understand? Now, all these children, they brought those symbols together and they formed wonderful, wonderful work. In the midst of this training, a man came inside the gallery and he was wearing a textile adire attire. The moment these children saw what the man was wearing, he said, "Sir, this man, the clothes he's wearing talks about wealth and abundance." I said, "Wow, that is interesting. You can call the man." They called the man and said, "Sir, do you know that you are wealthy?" The man was just looking like, "How? How? How?" He was like, "How?" He said, "Sir, the clothes you are wearing, all these symbols talks about wealth, abundance, rest, and peace of mind." Then the man was like, "Wow, is that true?" Then they brought him to what we have been doing. And the man became more conscious of himself. Now, the way he carried himself is now different from the way he brought himself into this. The way he's talking about, I'm bringing us to the understanding of what we do as an African creative, African art. What we do, those things that we do. So this man was not conscious of this thing he was even wearing. He was so much interested about the aesthetics, the beauty. But when the children begin to tell him the meaning of what he was wearing, he become more conscious of himself. And that is what I'm talking about. African art solving problems of identity. I think I don't want to always talk much on that. I think from that what I just said, now we've been able to get a kind of understanding of what African culture and tradition is, how it influences in solving problem in Africa. Thank you.
All right. That's a very great response. So okay, I'll be moving to Mr. Moses now. So and Mr. Moses, so looking at this did I call it a topic now or a word or a statement? Africa, the next Silicon Valley. You know, we all know that Silicon Valley is a region in South San Francisco, Bay Area, California, in the heart of US, where we have you know great tech giants like Apple, Google, and Facebook. And if you look at a developer, if you look at an average developer in Africa or maybe in Nigeria, and you tell them about maybe Facebook, Google, they seem so happy when they hear those kind of name. And an average developer or maybe an average software engineer in Africa will be so happy. I mean, very, very much happy to get a job with any of these tech giants. So now, but then when we look at these people closely, the way they started by looking into their own environment, and they build products that their own environment need. I mean, product can that can solve their own problem. That was their thinking when they started. That was their thinking. So, and immediately those products scale in their own environment. They look for a way to extend it to other parts of the world. Now, in Africa these days, we see developers, we see, techies, maybe even entrepreneurs coming up with, problems that does not even have anything to do with Africa. We can't even relate with it. An average African man can't understand what this guy is doing. So, but you see the guy with so much energy and all. So now, looking at this question, when we say Africa could be the next Silicon Valley, what does that mean to you personally? Like, what does that mean to you?
All right, thank you very much. So, like I said before, I think it's very nice for me to be here. Thank you, Enoch, for the opportunity. So, let's break this down. So, number one is that when you think about Silicon Valley, the first things that comes to your mind is money. Then the next thing that comes to your mind is tech. You understand? And then the next one that follows it is, opportunity. And then there's one single fact, which is the fact that everyone flows where opportunity flows. Everyone flows where money flows. Everyone flows where value flows. We've seen the case of places like the United Arab Emirates, which are, back in the 1990s, 1980s, which were deserted places, deserts. And then the day they found that they had oil, the entire world, sort of like rushed down there. Same thing with Silicon Valley. There's an idea that even Silicon Valley itself often, is a proponent of, which is the idea that Silicon Valley is not a place, it's an idea. And then it's a fact that many people don't seem to get. You understand? As a matter of fact, if you say, can Africa be the next Silicon Valley? We as Africans are not interested in becoming the next Silicon Valley. We don't want to. We will gladly love to be Wakanda than be Silicon Valley. We gladly love to be Wakanda than be Silicon Valley. And then that's because, have you ever seen an Arabian say, they want Dubai to be Silicon Valley? Or that they want the UAE to be like US? No. Or have you ever seen a Singaporean, you understand, say, he wish that Singapore can be Silicon Valley? Do you understand? Nobody that is really making great progresses really wants that. Everybody wants to be unique. And then the thing is that, like I said before, humans generally flow where value is. if you go to the midst of the ocean and you create a very valuable thing there that is nowhere else to be found in the world, everybody will float there. Everybody will come there. So now talking about the question of could Africa be the next Silicon Valley? Let's assume that, okay, yes, Silicon Valley, there's a lot of money there, there's a lot of technological progress there. Silicon Valley is the idea that you can do anything. You can do anything, nobody's going to stop you. Compared to other parts of the world where you can't just dare to do anything. So if that is the idea of Silicon Valley that we're talking about, the fact that you can do anything, then that means yes, Africa will get there. And I should like to say that take a look from now to 50 years to this time, 100 years to this time. What you see happen in Wakanda, even though fictitious, fictional, is going to be the reality of most African cities. A blend of who we are as a person to value. You understand that would then make us extremely unique in the entire world, that people want to come to Africa. Already, Africa has that vibe like, oh, I want to go to Africa. I've never been to Africa. But Africa has not yet become the next go-to location that everybody really wants to go to all over the world. So like I can kind of like say is that in 50, 100 years, Africa is going to become the Wakanda vibe. And then one thing there is that young persons will be able to do exceedingly amazing stuff here. And then 50 years is even very long because it's already happening already. Like it began, say, 20 years ago. 20 years ago, the culture of innovation really swept through these lands. I mean, talk of the likes of the Egyptian startups, talk of the likes of South African startups, talk of the likes of Nigerian startups. You understand? Providing amazing values that make companies in other parts of the world want to acquire them. One of the things that people often don't understand is that wherever good things happen, somebody is always behind it, and people often pay for good things to happen. Nothing great happens unless somebody's paying for it. But people often say, oh, there's no resources here, because so what Africa, there's no money in Africa. It's a lie. There is money in the world generally, and then that money is always looking for a profitable place to go. There's a general statement that we always say that the world is awash with liquidity. That means there is enough money in the world, but are there profitable ventures to put this money into? You understand? So Africa can in fact be the next big thing. Already it's begun, and I think we're in that time where everybody is now getting used to the new vibe in Africa, which is the vibe of builders, vibe of innovators, vibe of people creating great stuff. So we've got potential, and I think that's already happening. It left to people to join the train of building. Somebody said something. He said the Nigeria of tomorrow that we're looking at is not a Nigeria of job seekers. You understand? Because of course we don't have enough jobs around here. It's very obvious. We don't have in the industrial efforts. So Nigeria that we're looking forward to is not a Nigerian of job seekers. It's a Nigeria of job creators. Nigeria of innovators, people and the thing is that you can build massive things here, interesting stuff from here, and everybody in the world will want it. Look at the music industry here. Nobody discriminates, despite the fact that there's large discrimination, somewhat, to some good degree, against the black race. That discrimination is based on the basis of value, actually. People feel like blacks want to take more from them than give to them. So everybody hates beggars naturally. Sorry to say. Everybody naturally hates beggars, but when you have something to give, nobody discriminates against the rich. Haven't you seen? Whether you're black or brown or red, if you get somewhere with money, everybody just gets themselves in order. That's what was obvious with our music industry. Look at the acceptance for Rema in India. Look at the acceptance for Bonabo in America. for terms everywhere. Look at how they even use the music made by Africans. The a loan from Burna Boy, and then the other one from Thames during the second Black Panther movie. That's this world for you. This world is all about value. Nobody cares whether you're in Africa or you're Black. They care if you have something to offer, something that we can't get somewhere else. They'll go after it, with all of their resources. So I do think, yeah, we have great potential coming, and it's happening already. We are making it happen. Everybody that has an entrepreneurial mindset is making, Africa the next big thing, the next big hot spot. You understand? I think that answers the question, right?
Yeah, very, very well. Very, very awesome. So one of the things I so much like that you said is that Silicon Valley is not just a place, it's an idea.
It's an
So
idea.
it all started with an idea. Facebook started with an idea. Google started with an idea. Before they now start to build, and before you know what's going on, they have a working ecosystem that anything they want to do now is possible. And even as you are building a product, you need something from another product that already exists. You don't need to build that thing again. You just have to use what that person has already built. So that's so awesome. That's so awesome. So the next question I have for you is we know Africa has a lot of potential, but what do you think are the real building blocks that we need to get there? Like the real building blocks that we need to get to where we ought to be. Yeah.
So thank you for that. So the thing is, everybody has to become contributors. Africa, like every other place, is a barren land. You understand? Imagine that somebody gives you a bare land that is no building on it. What do you do with it? You're the one that determines what exactly you want to do. That's just what Africa is. It's much more than Africa being a place, is that Africa is a people. You understand? And then what are the building blocks to getting our Wakanda? Now everybody understand what Wakanda looks like right now. If you have not watched the film, or you're fumbling big time, you should have watched Black Panther 1, Black Panther 2 by now. Sorry, let me make a little digression. Those movies, present you with a view of what is possible. They are the climax of human imaginations. And the interesting thing is that, look at how many of you know? Okay, of course, everybody knows Uber, right? Everybody have used Bolt before. You've used Uber before. Even if you have not used Uber, you've used Bolt. And understand that Bolt copied Uber's model, right? Now, but do you know how that guy discovered the idea of Uber? It was apparently one day in a taxi, and then no. He was watching the movie. Now, in that movie, it was a popular movie back in early 2000s, and then in that movie, there is an actor and then that boss. You know how we say actor and boss, exactly. So the actor was trying to track the boss, and then he was tracking the boss using a fictitious GPS. You could see the location of the bones on the mobile phone, and then it was tracking it. You could see that there. Then the idea popped up in Travis Kalanick's head that, come on, what if we can incorporate this concept into the concept of people borrowing cars, and then you can track your driver, you can track the taxi that wants to come and carry it. Now, there's something I want you to actually note there, in fact, which is the fact that the idea of Uber is not the fact that you're borrowing cars. I mean, you're entering somebody else's cars. In particular, it is not. If that was the general idea, that was already happening with taxis, for crying out loud. You can just collect a taxi driver's number. But that was not the major idea there. The big idea that happened in Uber, that actually made Uber a thing that worked, is the fact that you could track your driver. You could track that the driver is coming. It was a psychological play. Uber was a psychological play. On a normal day, If I call a normal taxi driver, I say, Baba, hello, where you there? Come carry me from my house. The fact that I will need to be waiting and I don't know how long I am waiting for already cancels the need for the Baba. I cannot say, oh, I don't know how long I'll wait for. Even if he is at the next junction, the fact that I don't know how long I'm waiting for him for will make me just run out of patience, right? So, but when they discover that, wait, people naturally don't care about waiting. They care about knowing how long to wait for. That was the major play of Uber there. The fact that they could see it on their app that, okay, this guy is at the next junction and is 2 minutes away. People wouldn't mind to wait as long as possible. For a very good example of the psychological behavior, this was just a branch, okay, is the fact that if you check behavioral science, and then there is something there. Have you noticed that when you're trying to, if you drive a lot, or when you're inside public transit and you get to a traffic stop, you know, these traffic stops, this red, green, yellow, right? When you get there, if that traffic stop does not have a timer, if it doesn't have a timer and it just puts red up there for you and you're waiting, even if it waits just 1 minute, you will run out of patience. You'll be like, oh, this is getting too long. But when they put a timer there and it's 2 minutes and it's counting down, you're somewhat at peace with yourself, like, okay, no problem, no rush, it will calm down, finish. It's psychological, all of these things, all right? So now that was a branch, me trying to branch to show you something about, you know, value generally. And the fact that, what are the, you know, real building blocks to get where we want to get? Number one thing there is, everybody has to be a contributor, an active contributor. There is not going to be an Africa that is technologically advanced if the average African is not technologically minded. Domain expertise is going to have to be crazy. When you think about Silicon Valley, you're thinking Peter Thiel, you're thinking Mark Zuckerberg, you're thinking Travis Kalanick, you're thinking Sequoia, you're thinking Fairchild. If you know Fairchild very well, you're thinking Intel. You're thinking brilliance and expertise. You're thinking professors. That's crazy domain expertise. We're not talking about your natural ABCD readings. We're talking about your calculations. You're being extremely brilliant and being extremely informed. Okay, so now getting to where we are going, in fact, what are the building blocks going there? Number one is domain expertise. We need to be intelligent. And then intelligence here is not driven from, oh, this is what they taught you in school. No. It's more than that. It has to be, this is what is relevantly available, knowledge that is relevant and available. This is what you can scoop off the books that are really available. This has much more to do with a knowledge of history. And when I mean history here, I don't mean old histories and things like that. I mean a knowledge of research. We need knowledge. People have to gulp up as much insight. And the funny thing is that we cannot say all of these things entirely finished, because we are not structured to just be talking. We're structured more to read existing information and take it in and use that to do something. So we must be, that is why people have then written as much research down. And unless we read them, they are just bunch of waste. So domain expertise, Africans will have to be extremely, you know, they have to become experts at a whole lot of things. Or if you check China, if you check Singapore, one of the reasons why everybody uses China for manufacturing is because the average Chinese is good at tooling. Because something tooling, the use of manufacturing, you know, engines, tooling, they are so good at tooling. That's what they spend their life studying. Very minute manufacturing qualities. Same thing with the Japanese. They are good at, you know, algorithm development. They are good. They're so crazy good at math, especially. These very little tiny things are the very tiny things there. They are the bedrock of building any future, because the future, if a future will be exceptional, it will have to be really, really exceptional. And exceptionality here means great expertise. That means you are not just designing, you know why you're designing and what you're designing for, and then the very core building blocks of that design and how it can be global on a scale that is crazy. Second thing is we need to get to a sustainable lifestyle. People can be hungry and expect people can be hungry in terms of they have not eaten and expect massive things to come out of it. Okono laughing betita. That's how it is. If I am hungry and I have not eaten, I won't be inspired to do anything. Like this morning now, I've sat down here for over some hours. I have some events in the afternoon, practical technology events, and then we're going to be doing a lot of designs and work. But the thing is that I woke up this morning, carrying my laptop, and I just sat down here drinking, not drinking, alcohol or anything, but just drinking to the joy of it, taking tea, taking drinks, and just be here. And then that automatically inspires me to do stuff. In that same instance, I have made research with GPT-03 and then developed documentations. Why? Because I am not hungry. If I was hungry, I would not do anything. So that means that Africans have to develop a sustainable lifestyle. Africans must be able to eat. Must be food first. Go and check everywhere in the world. It's not everybody that really wants to have billion dollar. No. If we can eat well and get up to having electrical power 24/7, we can do massive stuff. If there's no power, we are joking. But we understand the challenge with government and everything here, and we cannot look down on that. That's why I always advise everybody should go personal. Everybody should go individual. You can't say, okay, because of us as a collective, because there's always epileptic power supply in Africa, then you will not do anything. Don't deceive yourself. Go personal, go individual. Succeed as an individual so that you can help all of us as a collective. What do I mean by that? Get yourself good food. Eat first. Second thing, get yourself a good co-working space. Your own personal spaces have to be extremely good. Get yourself gadgets. Have tools. Then get yourself solar power so that when you go broke, at least the sun will not switch off. You have power. You need power 24/7. You need food and you need electrical power. You understand? So that is like the very core thing there. So that from there, people can now start doing interest-based projects. Nobody becomes great out of desperation. No country, no continent becomes great out of desperation. Fine, people can become great out of their need, but people do that. People easily become great when it is interest-based. Oh, we are comfortable, let us become great. We are comfortable, let us do something that helps the entire world. Look at China. China had a policy that their previous president, Dao Xiaoping, developed for them, which was a mantra of the fact that China is not interested in helping the larger world. China wants to help itself first. Although their current president, Xi Jinping, is not interested in that anymore because now China has eaten very well. China has helped itself very well. Now China is touching the entire world. If you don't help yourself, you can't help the world. It's as simple as that. If you're hungry, you can't do big things. So because it has to get to an interest-based point, you have to start doing things for fun. And it is in that fun that big innovations come out. Go and check some of the craziest innovations that rule the world are things that came out of somebody else, fun. Look at the penicillin. Person chop, finish. Come abandon the remaining food. Then the remaining food then develop mold. You are very good eating enough. Do you think food will remain enough to develop mold? Enough to not figure out that mold will become penicillin? Do you understand? So great things don't come out of desperation. They come out of lived experiences, at your comfort. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for that response. That really summarized everything. So I could remember this year in Deaf Fest that we were served refreshment and the food we were served was called HTML food. I think it was made right there in Akure. So, now as you're speaking now, I believe that entrepreneurs on this call, you beginning to see what the African people really need. So if you are into, the food business, food will always be needed. So how can you know, brand your food products to make it um look like what Africa really need. So it's a whole lot of thing. And talking about good working space, electricity and all. You can't do without that in Africa here. This morning I had to run up and down to make sure that my gadgets are charged because it was light out yesterday. So it can be so funny. All right, so now moving to Mr. Oyewale Joshua. So the next question I have for you is what's one creative idea or invention from Africa, that you believe deserve more attention? So want to really go practical now, what's that one, idea that you have seen in Africa that's really deserve more attention and deserve us to really celebrate it? And why do you think so?
Okay. Thank you for that question. Thank you so much. From the experience I've had and my exposure on what is going on currently now in the world of art and creativity, one thing we point to in terms of ideas and invention is the sustainable art practice. Sustainable art practice, talking about the eco-friendly materials, the use of eco-friendly materials, and which has been one of my projects, one of the projects I've embarked on, and I've seen that do much in terms of exploration and betting new things. Eco-friendly materials. Talking about eco-friendly materials, we talked about upcycling and recycling of things, materials that we don't use, that we don't even think it has sense. And in the world of art now, I will mention some names which they have been making a very, very powerful impact. Even here in Nigeria, I would like to talk about Nigerian impact in terms of this aspect. I will mention someone like a sculptor. His name is Dr. Popola, where he uses scraps, mechanical scraps, to create sculptural pieces. Now we are here. We can just search on Dr. Popola. Now he uses mechanical scraps like part of cars, anything scraps. Then he gathered them together and he used them to create images. Not just images that speaks about identity, images that speaks about life, images that talks about hope, giving hope to the community, and also bringing a structural and systematic influence of healing to people in the community. So one thing I think African arts should pay attention to is the sustainability art practice, and I see that going a long way, and in it I see African art discovering their real identity. I want to thank Mr. Moses for many of the points he says. It's so profound. Talking about African, there is something about African that we have not embraced. Talking about, we've not really embraced our identity. And when we don't embrace our identity, it's possibly that we might not be able to reach that marks that we ought to reach. Now, I'm doing it, and I think when there is increase in embracing of our identity, there will be much innovations, much impact. I have someone in Ibadan, and what she does much is cooking, and she loves beans. Now, there's something that is called Ewagoin. It's an indigenous name, it's a Yoruba name. And on this lady move ahead into branding beans and Ewagoin. It's one of the top brand in Ibadan, where she makes waves, she delivers Ewagoin, just beans. But the name Ewagoin, talking about the identity, it is very, very, we can actually think that like, this Ewagoin, the name is not Tush, it's not Tush. But in all honesty, that is what we are. We are Africans. It is very, very important to embrace what we have in our environment, to embrace what has been made available for us, then transforming it to things that can be sustainable to environment, to our environment, to us as a person. So I'm going to be streamlining this to sustainability art practice. So when we begin to use many of our eco-friendly materials to build creative things, to do things, and attaching it with technology, making much research on how we can transform. In fact, I've seen some of my art colleagues, the waste nylon, pure water nylon, whereby he makes some innovations with it and creates something else with it. It's a waste, and then it's being transformed to something else for creation. Do you understand? So talking about sustainable art practice is going to help us much in terms of Africa. Yes. So sustainability art practice is going to help us so much in as an African in doing many other things, in improving our innovation, in bringing our identity to the place whereby it can be generally embraced and where it can be generally valued. Just Mr. Moses talked about value. When we have not, whatsoever we have not embraced, we have not worked upon, it can't come to the face of value. It can't come to the face of value. He mentioned Apple also. So all these things that we are seeing from the Western world were things that from their own aspect, they are from their own ecosystem, which by they sat down on it and they sat down on it, they put their heads together and begin to experiment. They begin to experiment and they come up with something reasonable that can bring a solution. Do you understand? That can bring a solution. So if we as an African can sit on our eco-friendly materials, and it's going to really help us. We did a project of recent whereby we talked about our old clothes that can be thrown away, and I gathered some of my friends are into fashions, and me as an arts person that is into textile and so many other things into tie and dye. We bring different fabric clothes together and we begin to put heads together in terms of fashion. And many of these waste clothes, we could see some of them are good. We see how we can bring them together, make different, find nice fashion design from it. Also from my own aspect, from my art knowledge, I introduced tie and dye, I introduced printing on it, I introduced different new modern prints on them, and all these clothes were being returned back to the real area to bless them, to help the local people, and it's a good one. It's a good one. So we can imbibe this act, and also bringing them together with the innovation of new tech. It can help us to come up with something great. Thank you.
All right, so that's so profound. Something that really stand out for me there is the sustainable art practice, and the example you made concerning the pure water liters. I studied marine science, and I made my research on plastic waste and nylon waste. We have tons of it in Africa. Along the shores of Africa, we have tons of it. I mean, plastics. Just the plastic bottles. Plastic for the table water and all. The cold drinks and all. So they are even causing the environment harm. So if we could pack all these things together and make use of them again in a way that it will reduce the harm we have on even our environment, I think it will be a very, very good thing because we have much of that problem in Africa here. Everywhere in the environment is littered with, just nylons and waste. And we have poor waste management system in Africa. We have that problem. Poor waste management system, poor drainage system. We have those problems. So it's going to really be a shift if we could turn those wastes into something reusable. All right. So the other question I have for you as second to the last, or welcome to the last. So second to the last. Now, in a world where creativity often follows trends, how can Africa creatives stay true to their roots and reach global audience? So in just maybe 3 minutes, can you just help answer these two?
All right. Just as I've said earlier, I think this question have been answered. Number one thing is that we must embrace our authenticity. We must embrace it. On the authenticity in terms of our identity. What we have as an African, we must embrace it. We talked about, Mr. Moses talked about, he talks about Japan, he talks about China. If you look at all these people, we know them for what they are doing, they can do. And the reason why we're able to streamline what they are capable of doing, their capacity and what they are able to do, is because they've been able to embrace their authenticity, their identity, in terms of their culture. Your culture influence the way you think. Talking about both material and non-material culture, the way you think, the way you do things. Do you understand? So we must come to that state of embracing our authenticity in our landscape, or in the way we do things. Now, we move to the word of he mentioned something just to buttress what he said. He mentioned Burna Boy. Now, Burna Boy, his system of sing is Afro-African music. Now, that is African identity. He can as well begin to sing in classical songs. Classical songs are not actually African songs, but he stayed on his identity, which is the Afro, and he mixed them, and it becomes something different, something that has value that everybody in the world can actually reckon with. So if we can embrace our authenticity, we can actually go far in reaching the global scale and global audience. Thank you.
Yeah, that's very great. Embracing our identity and authenticity. So even I even get to know that there are some laptop, produced in China, that's when you open them, you're not going to see English. You're going to see the Chinese language.
Yeah.
So, but here in Africa, we like to just embrace anything we see in the West. So even when you have a business name, you want to coin the name of your business to sound like maybe a Western business. There's a way people coin the name and all. So what happened to our own local language? Why can't you just stick to that unique language and use it to even brand the name of your business? So when you tell us your business, the normal African man is trying to think, what are you trying to say? Because when you tell him the name, it doesn't strike any chord on his head. He can't relate with it. So I think that's a very good point. So, okay, okay, great. So now I move to Mr. Moses. Okay. The second to last question I have for you, sir. Are there specific place or community in Africa today that remind you of what Silicon Valley looked like in its early days? I don't want to really, go into it and start mentioning some places, but if we look at some places, for example, in Nigeria, like Lagos, this place has high traffic when it comes to tech and stuff like that. People look to Lagos as the America of London, maybe let me say the London of Nigeria or something like that. So you look to Lagos because maybe there are many opportunities there. You have a large number of people there. Everybody's flowing there. So What do you think about this? Okay, hello, Mr. Moses, can you hear me?
Oh, sorry, I was speaking. I thought I wasn't muted. All right, let's go on with that.
Okay.
Now, asking if there's any place in Nigeria that reminds me of the early days of Silicon Valley would pose the question or mean that I was there when Silicon Valley was developing. Do you understand that? I was not there, so I don't know what Silicon Valley initially looked like. You understand, before it became the Silicon Valley. But there's one thing that I do know, that Silicon Valley or no Silicon Valley is not about high traffic areas. According to history, according to what I've read, the idea of a place becoming that, quote and in quotes, Silicon Valley is not about a place being a place of high traffic. If it was about high traffic areas, then Silicon Valley would have initially been in New York, not in California, because New York was much more the buzz area, where New York is like Lagos of Nigeria. That's where the high traffic is. So if it was about high traffic, then Silicon Valley would not initially have been in California. So, and then another thing I want to then say with that is that originally, and in fact, the area called Silicon Valley right now, the Santa Clara Valley, was mostly farmlands and small towns.
Wow.
If you check it, it was more like Akure. It was farmlands, it was small town. It wasn't really a place that people wanted to, to go. In fact, all they had there was orchards, this large farming, these large fruit gardens. That was what they had, farmlands. It was small towns. As a matter of fact, because of the fact that it was a farmland area, the name initially was the Valley of Arts Delight. Okay, so it was not really Silicon Valley. It was one of the radio presenters after the tech boom that mistakenly called the place Silicon Valley, because they were dealing a lot with silicons, silica from sand, in the use of making their transistors. Okay, so now, but what I'm trying to go to history to see that. So if it was, but there's something that I've read from Paul Graham. I don't know if you guys know Paul Graham very well. Paul Graham has funded many of companies that are in Silicon Valley. And then he was trying to analyze how that any city in any place in the world can become Silicon Valley. And he said one thing, which stuck, which is the fact that a place that has a tertiary institution has potential. A place that has a technology tertiary institution has potential to become Silicon Valley. It's not the academia. If you remember me talking earlier, I was talking about the fact that getting from where we are right now to where Africa is going to be, to the real Wakanda of Africa, the major factor there is much more knowledge than anything else. Even if you're hungry, you can still read. Of course, you can't do, but you can read, right? You can take in some knowledge. So what Paul Graham said was that any place that has a tertiary institution, especially a technological tertiary institution, can become Silicon Valley. There are other factors beside it, yes, but that was the number one primary place. And that will tell you, in fact, why Yaba was initially the place that we were thinking was going to become the tech valley of Nigeria, because of Yaba Tech.
Yeah.
But if you check Yaba Tech is currently not an high-end research place. FUTA has more chances than Yaba Tech. But the thing is that even if there's tertiary institution there, another factor is that there must be high pumping of funds into research. If there is no high pumping of funds into research, there cannot develop a Silicon Valley so-called in any place. But if there is a university in the area and there is high rate of funding for research, any place in Africa that has a technology university has the potential for becoming the next Silicon Valley. Of course, you know about the University of California, the California University. There's a particular university there was the beginning of Silicon Valley, in fact, because it was even the school. What, don't let me go into that history. You guys should read it by yourself. But then it was the school that was the very basics of the idea of Silicon Valley ever. Stanford University, yes, ever happening there.
Yeah.
If Stanford University was not in that area, then there is not going to be a Silicon Valley today. It started from inside the school. The school gave them the space to start, building big stuffs. You understand? Then from there, it spread out. It was professors that were funding research. It was professors that were funding, business startups. But the professors were being funded by school to make research. So if that does not happen, we are far away from our apple is far away from the apple tree. You understand? So exactly, the apple is really far away from the apple tree. So that has to happen. Any place that has a tech university that research is well funded can develop into becoming the next Silicon Valley. You understand? There is other factors beside it, which I think you guys should read. Everybody should check out, program.com. You will see some of these things that he has discussed this in full scope. All right. Thank you.
All right, and that's awesome. That's awesome. So we're about wrapping up everything now. So I know you may have mentioned something, one or two things about this question I'm about to ask, maybe previously as you were answering some questions. So, but I just want you to round up with this, as a charge for developers, designers, entrepreneurs that we have on board here. So, what do you think is the role of the young people? Like you said, Silicon Valley would not have come into being without Stanford University, and they have so much, fund in research and all. And we have limited, we have limited of that opportunity, maybe in Nigeria or in Africa at large. But then, what do you think is the role of young people to help shape this kind of vision that we now begin to rise to put some of these things in place, not waiting
So,
for government?
okay, thank you very much. So, if you remember that when you asked me the first question, I should really say that everybody that is listening to me is actually very, very lucky. To a very good degree, because it's a pleasure to really share, and I hope that you guys can also share when you start, figuring out these things. So, if you check when I initially answered my first question, I said something about whenever you see something happening, any good thing happening, somebody's funding it, somebody's making it happen somewhere. Nothing good happens unless somebody is behind it, doing it. Bad things can happen by themselves. That's the funniest thing with this place. Just like graffiti happens by itself, but escape velocity has to be something else, has to be an intentional work, right? And I also said that every young person in Africa has to be a contributor to the next. Big things are going to happen in Africa. I have to tell you that, of course, it's happening already. It's just going to be a question of if you are the one driving it or somebody else, whether it's me or you. You understand? So everybody has to develop agency, what we call agency. The idea of being able to know what to do and go do it. Every young person has to develop agency. You must be able to know what to do. You must be able to know how to do it and get that done. The second part of it, which is even more important right now, that many people don't know, that's why most generations have missed out, is the idea of doing productive works. Everybody now in Africa, every young person, because we've got a new generation now that is going to build the next coming Africa. Like I know that because I'm part of this generation, and I know one thing very well: we're going to cause trouble. This generation is not settling. As far as I am concerned, we're not settling for, let's just manage it. No, we might not fight the government, but we're going to do crazy stuff to buy the government. I'm sorry to say that. If you say, I don't know, many of you have watched The Men Who Beat America. There is something, I also said something earlier, the fact that I said that Stanford University existed there, but Stanford University were getting funding, were getting funded, right? But have you asked yourself where the funding was coming from? It was coming from businesses that were already developed. So that means that in the circle of things, somebody must still fund something. But what funds everything is productive endeavors. You're not just right now in Africa, you're not just programming for fun again, because that we don't have that luxury of you programming for fun, of you designing for fun, of you designing like one underclass. No. That time has gone. Right now, we need you to do everything that you do now must be productive. What we mean productive right now, it must get something on the table. That means you're designing something. That design must go from being in your head, from being on your computer, to being in people's houses, so that they pay for that design in large number. It must go from being something just done for fun to something well paid for. All endeavors must become something productive. It must bring something to the table. It must turn something to the table. Like now, for a very good example, being the fact that I'm an entrepreneur, here's something. When I solve a problem and the problem and the solution works, we call it, problem solution fit. Problem solution fit. I find a problem, that's the first thing. I solve the problem, then the solution in fact works. That's the first thing. Everybody stops at that. And it's a big error, is why we are where we are as a continent, as a people. We like doing things for show off, showmanship. Oh, you built that helicopter that you built with carton, just because you want people to be excited about it, that, oh, you can do stuff. Boy, shut the fuck up and just move. Can that helicopter become a standard product people can pay for to have in their house or to fly with? Nobody in the world, go check, not China, not America, does things for you to be excited about. They do things so that you can pay for it. It's like telling America now to develop their SR-71, which is now defunct, which was the fastest, jet, which flies at Mach 3, which is 3 times the speed of sound. It's like telling them to do it just for you to be excited. Boy, no, they developed it so that they can attack their enemies and not be caught under the radar. And in fact, not one of that, jet was ever shot down. Why? Because it could fly before you could know it. If you heard the sound now, by the time you will see it, it's gone. That means that people are not developing things just for you to have fun again. You too have to stop that. You have to stop posting content online for people to just be excited that you are alive. Bro, you're one out of 7.7 billion people. We should be excited that you're alive. My friend, go and sit down. It has gone beyond that. Stop posting things for the fun of it. Now, start posting things for productivity. If you want to post a picture, like me, I said to myself, if you check my Instagram, all of you should do that and follow me. If you check my Instagram, I said to myself, I would never post a picture that I snap with my phone again. Never. I can do that in my house and enjoy it amidst my fellow friends, but not online. It has to be productive. That means I get the cameraman to snap a very good picture if I don't have a camera, and then you post that. And when you post it, you must be selling something with it. You're either selling yourself as a personal brand or you're selling a product. It has to go. It has to go away from, oh, we're doing it for the fun of it. Oh, people should see me. Oh, I make shoes, so I just make a fine shoe. Oh yeah, see it. No, bro, you're gonna be poor that way. You have to do productive endeavor. If you sew shoes, if you make shoes, how can that shoe get to 100,000 buyers? Do you understand? So people should start doing things for productive. That's what Africans right now, every young person's need to do. And the funniest thing is that we don't, without you, is going to happen, but we want it to happen with you, so that our numbers are strong. I'll say this and I'll wrap up. Look at the men who built America. It got to a point they had enough money to buy government. Not because per se they are actually buying government. It's because, don't forget that when you see political ambitions out there, the persons that often win at times, in a democracy as we are, is the person that has the most money. I swear, it's the person that can do the most, the most media outreach. Have you ever wondered that despite how popular Coca-Cola is, they still spend a lot of money to do marketing up to now? Do you know why? Humans have 7 minutes memory retention. Naturally, as you are, you can only retain 7 minutes of everything that I've said here. So if you have not written anything down, you forget everything. That's how short memoried we are. Your right and your left brain hemispheres can only your conscious brain can take only 7 minutes of memory. That means you forget after 7 minutes, literal. You understand? And then that points to one thing. That's why it is those that are constantly in our mind that we remember. That's why when people do political campaigns, they spend a whole lot so that they can always be in your mind, at the top of your mind. Even at times, you want to vote, but you forgot the name of the person you wanted to vote for. And you remember the name of the person that, in fact, got broadcasted to you the most. And you just put your hand there. Do you understand? Nobody else to, because it has been well marketed to you. Why do you all buy Coca-Cola and there is a large tray of other drinks there? That's because Coca-Cola and Pepsi is more marketed to you than any other thing. Humans really think they think for themselves. They don't. You guys are programmed. Sorry, we are all programmed literally every time. And
Yes.
It's normal. You understand? It's normal. It's who we are. So that being said, I was using that to point to the fact that if we don't do productive endeavors, we cannot buy our way into what we want. Bad things can happen by themselves, but good things don't happen by themselves. That's it. Bad things can happen by themselves. Good things don't happen by themselves. You want a good government, you need to have money to push your own good person. Somebody once said, if they are distributing 1 cup of rice, you distribute 1 bag of rice, they will vote for you. Do you understand? We're not saying to compromise, but we're saying that money is the chariot of everything. I swear. So all young persons right now must focus on doing productive works. You have to calculate your time value. How much are they paying me for this job? In that extra time, can I do more? Can I sell to more persons? You understand? How much am I making from just selling one cloth? Do things that scale. Let all of your activities scale. Now, the problem with recording a podcast is not about recording a podcast. It's about distributing it. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's about 15 persons here that are actively listening to it. But can this podcast reach 1,000 persons, 10,000 persons? That's a productive work. And that's where the real work is. Anybody can do a podcast for a show of, I organized an event. Oh, thank God. Yeah, you do. By next week, we have all forgotten that you organized the event. Do you understand? So my advice towards the future right now is that, and then please understand that productive works are different from activities. You can do activities and not be productive. One of the greatest signs of intelligence is that you got what you want from life. Yes, you got all you want from life. And all you want might not even be an extremely big house. But what exactly do you want? You understand? So everybody must do productive work, which means that do what you have to do, then do it well, then sell it big. Anything, you must sell it big. And then the greatest, most productive work that I've seen there's other side of it though, but hear me out. The greatest, most productive work that I've seen is that people pay for what you do, and they pay well for it. Exactly. There's no underproductivity with it, because people don't pay for anything that they don't see extremely value in it. So the real test of productivity is that can they pay for it? You understand? There's the other side of it too, which are impact-based projects. You understand? Impact-based projects that can you reach as much persons as possible, like the church, like religions. Those are impact-based, not necessarily monetary-based, because you can spread impact works without spending for it so much. But it also looks impossible, Sha. But it's very left dicey. So I have said that. So please follow me on Instagram. I share a lot of these things every day. And I think that's it. Everybody should do productive works, and I look forward to our productive works. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for that great response. So emphasis on productive work. So now everything you do from now, um, being productive should be the major goal. How can it reach a large audience? So if you are doing something in the corner of your room and it's only your friend that can get to see it, can get to test it, you can't make you can't make change like that. You have to be able to reach a larger audience, and that's why influence is needed. So influence is just being able to, shape the mind of people, you know, with what you do, because you could reach a large number of audience in split of seconds. So and adding to that, so this podcast will be posted on our YouTube channel, because currently we are recording it, and we also send it to us on our email for every one of us who registers. Then we're network is doing.
So jeez, network
Maybe
is
while Enoch come back, if you have question for Mr. Oyewale and myself, you can put it in the comment section so we can answer it very fast. If you have questions, please put it in the comments box and we can answer it. I think it's very good to have questions if you really understand what we said. Questions? Okay, if you don't have questions, just say you don't have question in the comment section. Just say I don't have question. Let's know if you've been following. Exactly. Guys, let's have it. Let's have it. If you're really here, you've been here, and I've not spoken in vain. Haha. Let's have your I don't have questions in the comment box. But if you do have questions, please put it there. Hi, Glory. Do you have a question? Glory, can I meet you? Hello, Glory. Oh, no, sir. Amazing. Amazing. How about Daniel? I think I saw two Daniels here the other time. Daniel does not have a question. Amazing. Ayola, do you have a question? Ayola, do you have a question? Ayola, do you have a question? Right, I'm waiting for your response. Ayola, do you have a question? Ah, for Lagba de Latumbosi, thank you. Thank you for saying that. Really, that's good. Please, if you've learned something, you can also share with us in the comment section. At least let the organizer be able to have something to post online to encourage other person's participation later. Okay, Mr. Popo Lafermi has a question. Could you please unmute and ask your question? Or if you want to write it, anyone works. Right, let's do that. If you want to unmute to ask your question, Mr. Popo Lafermi, you can unmute and do that. And then you can also write it, anyone.
I hope you can all hear me.
Yes, perfectly. We can hear you.
Okay. Firstly, I would just like to appreciate the two speakers for their wonderful contributions. Um, it's really a wonderful time being there, even though the service is actually possibly off in between. But then, the little I could think it was really insightful and I enjoyed it. So, straight to my question. I think, okay, the reason why I want to ask this question is not only for myself, I think for many others that I want to benefit from it too. So, what is the, or let me just say it this way, how can you improve um, how like your being courageous in, sometimes for the best way to actually explain how the question is going to be. How can you improve your boldness, your being courageous in tackling these particular issues we are all talking about? Because I notice many people actually are afraid to actually take that step. Many people, it's not as if some people do not know what to do actually, but I think one of the major problems is taking that bold step of starting something. Because I've met, even in my line of fashion, I've met a lot of, like I've met some few persons. Sorry, I've met myself. I'm popular from the area, and I have a fashion brand, J Fashion, that I'm currently running. So that's the little way I can bring myself. So very fast, how can people be encouraged to take that bold step of starting something they want to do, which can actually affect the world, which can actually bring a change to the world? I think I should ask the two speakers if they can probably give one or two points. I don't know whether you understand my question, sir.
Yes, perfectly. I understand your question on my own
So
side very
how can people, what are some of the tips that can help people to take the bold step of starting in their career path that probably they've chosen? Because some people don't even know. Some people know that, okay, I want to do this, but I think they are scared of starting something. I don't know whether you get what I'm trying to say.
Yes, yes.
So I don't know if you can help us with that out, sir. I will kindly appreciate. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for asking the question. Not even on for your own sake. You asked it for the sake of other persons. So I will let Mr. Oyewale answer quickly, briefly, fast. Then I will also add something.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Moses, for that opportunity. All right. For the question that Mr. Popola just asked about being courageous in starting things, there is a word that my spiritual father always tells us. He says, "The courageous will always lead the gifted." I repeat again, the courageous will always lead the gifted. That is, when you are not courageous and you are gifted, you always be led by the people that are courageous, even when you don't know up to what you know. Now, on this note, it is very important that if you know you are gifted in what you are doing, understand the authenticity of what you have. the authenticity of what you have. And if you pay attention to this broadcast, there is something that has been so profound in terms of solving problems. Solving problems. Whatsoever gift that you have, whatsoever thing you are doing, that is always tend to solving problems, you always be courageous about it. You will always be courageous about it. If you pay attention, it's talking about solving problems. From being solving problems, it goes to like coming to the place of the global surface, industrialization, institutionalization of what you have. So it's very important that, see, the state of your fear. Fear will always deny you of so many things that you have. But you must, by all means, you must overcome that state of fear. You must overcome that state of fear. And how do you overcome that state of fear? By starting with whatsoever you have. Many of the times, many of people don't start just because they think too much so perfect. They want everything to be perfect. They want everything to be on ground before they can start. And they feel they look at their mistakes rather than the best of themselves. So in everything that you want to do, what brings fear is that there's something that you're actually looking at. There's an error that you're looking in yourself that is making you to be fearful. Will people not see my error? Rather than thinking of people seeing your error, why not projecting the best of yourself? So it's very important that you have to be very courageous with whatsoever you have, whatsoever that you know. You have to be very courageous about it. When you are not courageous to pull out what you have, you will always be timid to do everything that you have. So that's one thing I want you to just know about that. That is, you have to just start from where you have. Start with whatsoever you are and be conscious of who you are, your identity. It's going to help you a lot in whatsoever you are doing. Thank you.
So thank you, Mr. Oyewale. So let me add to that. So before I do that, I need you guys to put what you learned from my section and from his session into the comment box. At least that's the least that you can do. I don't think anybody here paid for these sessions. So please put that in the comment section. Thank you. We really appreciate it. Now to the question, I like to say, when we did some analysis on the subconscious mind and the conscious mind when it comes to getting stuff done, one thing that we eventually now came about was that if you don't start, nothing happens. Starting is the only thing that is in between conscious and then unconscious effort. You understand? Like, you just have to start. That's why you see that most of the motivations that people do out there, they say just start, because in fact just start is the way. You just have to start. Most times analysis to paralysis can cause you not to want to start, but when you start, then you can see clearly. Don't mind those that say, oh, go and find clarity before you start. You will not find it. Clarity is found best in actions, not in thoughts, not in analysis. You understand? Clarity is found best in action. If you don't start, you won't know if you will fail. You won't know whether it works. And it's fine to fail than to not start. So just start. And then one other thing that I discovered of recent is to make it easy for some people to start is the idea of that you have to read. Go and read. There's a guy. They call him, you will know him, he was one of the richest back in the 1980s in Nigeria. They call him the Michael Ibru, the Ibru dynasty. The Ibru dynasty. See, guys, there is no faking things there. If you don't know who the rich are and how they became rich, you will never be rich. Have that fact, save it on your notepad and know it for a fact. If you don't know who the first 10 rich persons are and how they became rich, you will never be rich. You will never be rich. Why? Total summary of what we know, of what we have an idea about. So please, that is key. Now, there's a guy called Michael Ibru. He didn't go to school. He probably finished from primary 6 and was one of the richest back in the 1980s in Nigeria before Dangote even became the richest or something like that. And then this guy, all he sold was fish. Frozen fish. He was the one that introduced frozen foods to Nigeria. Michael Ibru, you can make your research about that. That was all he did. You imagine somebody selling frozen fish, becoming the richest in an entire country, to the extent that it then builds a conglomerate. Now, Imagine that you had read something like that. The thing is, nobody ever forgets what they've read before. And what you read prompts your actions. If you're empty-headed, empty-brained, you will not do anything because you don't see a reason to do those things. And the thing is that anything everybody has ever read before, nobody forgets anything, in fact, except even if you have accidents and things like that, it just gets suppressed. You don't forget. You understand? So, but what you've read sort of like becomes like the OS, the operating system in your computers. It just directs what you do. It directs you to start. If you know, in fact, that according to history that you met or people that have become rich, that all of them did this, did that, did this, and did that, they did something. If you know that people actually, in fact, became rich, you know, the number one thing that happens to you is that you immediately desire to become rich because you know that people actually came from nothing and in fact became rich, and that has happened before. That possibilities was there. Automatically inspires you to say, okay, I have to become rich. Then the next thing that comes to your mind is, how do I become rich? You have to do. Then that thing just keeps coming because you have read something. So the number one thing is you have to start, but the very basics of it is you have to read. You have to read. Your subconscious cannot power you or even do anything for you if you don't consciously read. I've made this distinction, so check my Instagram, you understand it better. When you read something, you only remember 7 minutes of it, but your subconscious can remember forever, right? So, but your subconscious cannot know what you're doing unless you put something into it consciously. Do you understand? So this is a scientific proven method. So I say that read first. Go and read something. Even if it's just one thing, just read. Then try and start. If you've read, you will not even need to try. You will just start because it will just be impromptu for you. Okay. And then time is going. If you don't start now, you'll never start. So I think I hope that answers your question, Mr. Fermi. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I will hand over the mic back to Enoch. Are you back, Enoch?
Yeah, I'm back now. So thank you
Good.
so much, guys, for standing in. So much, I appreciate that. All right. Do we have any other questions? We promise this podcast end by 2, and we're keeping to that. So no African time. I'm looking forward to the day whereby the concept of the African time will be fully eradicated. We won't have anything like that. So why do we need to target African time? All right. So please, if you have any question, we just have 10 minutes left.
Every year when I'm doing my birthday, my ex will always do almost the same thing every year.
And please do well to
He's a fine man, you know, these women matter, you know, he's doing this all for single men everywhere, you know, thought they will take his.
I like Glory's comment. I honestly love Glory's comment. What's there? I must read a lot. Yeah, you must read a lot. I tell you. If one more person comments what they learned, I'm going to share something very, very fast. You're going to love it. If one more person comments a question or what they learned earlier, I'm going to share something. And in alliance with what Glory, posted there, I must read a lot. Yeah, you must read a lot. You must read a lot. So if one person adds to the comments, I'm going to share this. Let's have it, please. Let's have it.
Okay, let's have that.
Mm-hmm. Whether a question or a comment of what you learned, anything. Yes, please ask one more question, brother. Please ask one more question.
I think I want to have the question related to the aspect of being action. So the thing is, I understand really the part that you have to do. In fact, there is no how everything there is.
Sorry, can you increase your sound, please? I'm finding it hard to hear.
There's a lot of echo in this sound.
I think
Can you hear me now, sir?
yes, perfect, bro.
Okay. So I said I understand the part when we have to read if we really want to make impact. There's a time something looked into my mind. He said, I don't know, the folks just into my mind. And this is it. He said, the level at which you can make a change depends on how much you know about that thing you want to do. For example, if you say you want to change the world, then the level at which you can change the world, it can only change the world based on what you know about the world. I don't know whether you understand what I'm trying to say.
Correct.
Yeah, so I know that one is the fact there's no argument. But then I think from my little experience, I've met people that they read so much, but let me just say they have little to show for it. Like there is nothing you can see in your life that match the kind of knowledge you need. It's been because of it, and they are not applying on anything.
Correct.
I don't know what you understand. I've even met people, like I've even counsel, let me just be one counsel, I've even counsel people who says that, okay, me, I'm into business, at least based on the experience, I've counseled people that they know far more than I do, but yet I can still do counsel because I have more experience than them. I don't really understand the fantasy. So
Yes,
my question basically now is, how can you bring the balance respect to reading and applying? I don't know whether you get what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how can you do the balance? It's not so that you just know so much and you are not feeling there's really nothing you can show for what you know. So there's no results. I don't know, you just read and yet you are not, you cannot, there's nothing you can use to quantify the kind of knowledge that you know. So how can you get the balance in the sense that you are reading and yet it's not just you just taking it in. There is something you are investing in.
Exactly. I got that. Is this the year? Oh, it's line cut. So, okay, let's answer it, right? Yes, let's answer it. Should I go first, Mr. Oyewale? Oh,
Yes, you can go first. In fact, the question I did not get the question clearly because it's
okay.
so there's a lot of echo here.
Yes. So it was talking about some people that read a lot and then there is no change of what they've read in their lives. All right. As four of us do like this. Is there a Muslim here, an Islamic person here, a Muslim here? Okay, there's no Muslim here. All right, that's fine. Now, okay, but then let me answer the question in a very secular way. Well, I personally, I have not seen the person that reads a whole lot and then is very unproductive. In fact, in truth, honestly, I have not seen that person. But I've seen people that pretend to read a lot and have not done anything with it. I've said, that one is plenty. That's why, for me, I'm not a fan of, fictions. I don't read fictions. I read non-fictions a lot. Non-fictions are books that are about history, autobiographies, they're about procedures, they're about science, they're about something that has been done before. You understand? Unlike, unlike reading somebody else's imaginations. Okay. So I don't read non-fictions, right? Now, but I've not seen any person, sorry, I don't read fictions, but I've not seen a person that reads non-fiction a lot that is unproductive with it. But then I understand that might exist somewhere. People must have seen it before. But this is what then probably provides a balance for it. Always read towards a goal. Oh, because I can tell you something. Reading is hard though. Hard. Is honestly hard. I can tell you for a fact. Look at the popular clergyman with honor and reference, Bishop Oyewale. You would see he emphasizes the idea to read and read and read and read a lot. And then you can see the fact that he reads a lot shows in his results. The extent to which you read is the extent, in fact, to which you can do productive activities. A lot of people do a lot too. Look at me here. I probably work an entire week in a month, and then I have more results than everybody else, get more paid than everybody else that I know. Do you understand? And I only have to work just less than 168 hours in a month. And then and that's because what I do produces the result that somebody else will use an entire year to work for. Why? I work with knowledge, and I don't repeat what has been done. I do what needs to be done. So the balance point there is always read towards a goal. Yes, always read towards a goal. If I say, oh, my goal is I want to become the richest man in Africa, in the world, then I have to go and study who the richest men are and how they got there. I've seen people that were born broke, a few of them, that became the world richest. You understand? Then I tried, and I saw that by the time some of them were 26, 27, they already had companies that were worth millions of dollars. Then I tried the same thing very early. Thank God that I knew about those informations very early. And I started doing the same thing. And by the time I am that same age, my company is worth millions of dollars. It's valued millions of dollars. You understand? So that fact is that always read towards a goal. When you read towards a goal, you can be able to put a balance between action and reading. But please note that there are people that read for a show. That in fact, people that read for a show don't really do. People mistake that if you know how hard reading is. So it's very hard to in fact say, oh, you are reading and you're not using it. Most of them, like for me now, the very first book I really, really read in depth was the Bible. And there's no apology that I'm a Christian. I am a Christian. And then the very first book I read back to back was the Bible. Oh, good Lord, I did read that thing. And then I saw people getting rich inside that place and things like that. And then I did become rich myself. Do you understand? So I have not, in fact, seen a person that really, really read, because I really, really read and it worked. So if you're reading fictions, it's in fact possible for you to read it and nothing will change. Fictions, somebody will say, oh, I'm reading a lot. And you say, you're reading a lot. Oh, let me see your books. And then you check 17 of 20 is fictions. Bro, you're living in somebody else's imagination, which is not real. So, but if you say, oh, you read a lot, what book have you read? And you see they are non-fictions. In fact, books written by other successes. And that's another thing. If you read books written by failures, it won't do anything for you. Like, for example, I'm going to say this and I'm going to wrap that up. I had money to buy a car, but I didn't buy a car because it was very hard to put the money together to buy the car. I had other things to do. But I read one book, just one book. It's called Africa Rise and Shine by Jim Ovia. And in that book, the man analyzed how he was always getting car for the fun of it and for business. And I picked that point, and in 3 months after reading that, I got 2 rides, 2 cars. Do you understand? Now, that shows you how powerful reading is. So I don't know how somebody else will read that same thing, and it will not. So I don't read for show. I read for a goal. Like that particular ride now, those cars. I was not trying to read the book to find out how to read for cars, right? I was just trying to learn from another rich man how he got rich and got to become one of the the owners of one of the most valued banks in Nigeria. And I saw that by the side there. When you read books from successes, you learn of their success and how they became that. And unconsciously, which is your function of your subconscious, you become that exact. So the bridge between reading and not applying is reading for reading without a goal. I think people should read with a goal. I think you should read with a goal. Have a goal in mind for why you're trying to read that thing. You won't become rich. Read books from the rich. Then you actually, in fact, become rich. So I don't know if that answered it, because Mr. Ferrami, you were off the call a little bit, but that's the fact about it. And then I can.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to go ahead?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I said my phone went off. I didn't know that my phone battery was low. Actually,
Yeah, sorry.
So sorry about that.
No, it's fine. It's fine. But I don't know whether you got anything from.
Yes, I think I understand what you're trying to say. I could pick 1 or 2 stuff from what you said.
So another thing I should say is that please understand that a workaholic that doesn't read will end up a failure. Please understand that too. You can be the most hardworking person. As a matter of fact, it's very hard for you to be the most hardworking person, because if you were the most hardworking person, what should the bricklayer say? You understand? What should the taxi driver say? You understand? So you can't in fact be the most hardworking person. But even the most hardworking person, oftentimes the most hardworking person that does not read will oftentimes end up a failure. Yes, the dynamics of life are just too crazy and it changes almost every minute. And then that means that if you want to then beat those dynamics, you must know what people have done already, so that you don't go on repeating that same thing. Because if you are repeating what people have done before, it's more like a copy and paste. And then the thing there is that there is no profit with that. You will end up being poor in your life. You will end up struggling. So life rewards uniqueness to a very good degree, and you can't in fact be unique unless you understand what's already on ground, and you understand what's already on ground by reading about what's already on ground. Do you understand? So don't spend your years working extremely hard without reading. It's completely unproductive to the core, because you will not know what to look out for. You understand? You will not know what to look out for. And then there are some people that, in fact, because the thing is that whether you're hardworking or not, whether you are reading or not, time is still a factor when it comes to seeing the result of what people have read. Some people might have read it, and then time is just taking its place to show the result. Okay, so let me leave it there. If we were to say everything, we won't say it finished, but I hope I answered that question.
Sure.
Yes, thank you very much, guys. I have to put
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Moses. Thank you so much, Mr. Joshua. This was really, really awesome. And I personally, I have a lot of things that I had jotted down. So and and it's not going to stop here. Um, we need to proceed to doing applying all what we've learned. So and just like Mr. Moses have said the other time, the era of doing things for the fun of it is over. Now you have to be intentional about productivity. So I believe every one of us has learned a lot today, and I'm expecting to see that we incorporate this into our lives, into our daily lives. Starting from how we begin to live after this podcast. So this is where we're going to be drawing the curtain for today. Um, come to the end of this podcast, the first edition of our Think Africa podcast.
Um,
So okay,
sorry.
I guess you
Sorry.
can say something.
Sorry. Before we end up this section, I just have something I would just like to share. Let me just drop it in the chat group. Let me just drop it there. I'm coming. Let me paste. Oh,
And then, sir, you can also drop your Instagram link so we can also see your artworks.
okay. All right. First of all, before we end up this section, just as Mr. Moses has said, it's very important that everything that we are going to be doing as an African, as a creative, personally, actually, I see everybody as a creative, because you are creating something. It's not about painting, drawing, and other things like that. So you must come to the point at which we do things with a purpose, and that has been my philosophy as an artist. And I do say it. I said no to art for art's sake. Art must be done with a purpose: to heal, to educate, to impact, to innovate, to create proactive change, and to end poverty. And at a point, I evolved and I said to also prophesy, and which all these things I've said has been the body of what I do as an artist. And I'm going to share my Instagram page. Currently, as an artist, I don't paint. I don't draw just because I feel like drawing, just because I wanted to paint. But there's an aspect I have found in art, and I see it very important in terms of when it comes to healing, when it comes to educating, when it comes to innovating, and also to end poverty, which has been my project all this what I've been doing with people and in other places. So it's very, very important that we do things with purpose. So to round up this thing, there's a research that I stumbled upon, and it's a print is a news print that I stumbled upon, and I think this should be a catalyst to the mind of every Africans, to the every Africans. It's just a news print that I caught. It's a news print in the that was February 2, 1835. It says Lord Macaulay addresses to the British Parliament. He says, I have traveled across, I think we are all hearing me very well. I have traveled across the length and breadth of Africa. I have not seen one person who is a beggar. We are talking about 1835. Who is a beggar? Who is a thief? Such wealth I have seen in this country, such height, moral value, people of such caliber, that I do not think we would ever conquer this country unless we break the very backbone of this nation, which is their spiritual one, cultural heritage. And therefore, I propose that we replace their old and ancient education system, our culture. For if African thinks that all that is foreign and English is good and greater than their own, they will lose their self-esteem, one, their native culture, and they will become what we want them, a truly dominated nation. I dropped it inside the box. I don't know whether I dropped it inside the box. This so please, it's just good for us to understand who we are as an African and what has been involving in this continent as an African. It's very, very important to be aware of ourselves, and that has been one of these things that me I'm working on. And me as a person, as an artist, I'm called a prophetic artist, not just because I chose to be a prophetic artist. It's just because one of the aspects of art that I undo is much of the spiritual aspect of art. I do other aspect of art, but it's much of spiritual, which I see is very important because as a person, as a human, we just don't live. Just we live in a tripartite part, in a tripartite nature: the spirit, the soul, and the body. So, and all these aspects of life have to be nurtured. All these aspects that makes a man have to be nurtured, and that is one of the aspects that my own art actually like addresses. Addressing the type of the part of the spiritual aspect, and that's what people call me prophetic artist. And if you check my Instagram, you see some of the things I do as a prophetic artist. So this is calling us as an African, as a young African creative innovator, and in every expert or aspect of our endeavor, that we have to come to the place of our personal and individual identity. Embrace our uniqueness. Embrace your uniqueness. Never be timid of your identity. Never be timid of what you are. Rather, pull out what you have and turn it to solving a problem. And that is where the word innovation comes from. Innovation is not creativity. Innovation is using creativity to solve problem. Innovation is not creativity. Innovation is using creativity to solve problem. So that is what innovation is. So we must pay attention to that as a creative, and this contemporary in this contemporary age, we must pay attention to that. So I'm a Christian. I pray God will help us in this season, and God is going to make us more stronger and open our understanding to what we need to do and be much to pay attention to in this time and this season. Thank you, Mr. Enoch, for this opportunity. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing with us from your wealth of knowledge. So Mr. Moses is requesting that you drop the link for this material. I don't know if you have it with you currently.
Okay, it's the image I have, but I will search for the image I got. The image.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then
I think I sent you the image.
okay. I think I have your Instagram link, so I'll post it here myself. So I
Okay,
believe
thank you.
people can reach out to you on Instagram via messages, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So here is the link to his Instagram profile. So do well to check out his ads, and you can also reach out to him personally. So I want to really say a big thank you to Mr. Moses and Mr. Joshua, and everyone who took time to sit and listen. You know, I so much appreciate, and I look forward to um, us building um, let me say Africa that's we really envisioned. Yeah. So that'll be all for today. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, everyone. Please, you can unmute your mic and say thank you to our guest and final goodbye as you leave. We can unmute our mic and say thank you. Okay, can we all hear me? All right.
Um, Good afternoon, everyone. I want to say big thank you to Mr. Joshua and to Mr. Moses. That was a great one. I've learned a lot, and my heart was open to a lot of things. And this has given me energy and prepared me to get into work, reading, studying, and improve myself. So I want to appreciate Cratadel and also our guest speaker. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's coming from Ages. All right. Maybe one of these days we'll have you on board. Tell us your stories. Ages
I'll,
Scott, Ages Chickens. Thank you so much.
thank you, sir.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.